Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metzen. We have a fascinating and great guest on tonight, a man I've been wanting to get on the show for over a year. Charles Pierce is an American sports writer, a political blogger for Esquire.com, a liberal pundit, and an author. And like Jack Kerouac, he was also a forest ranger. He has written for the New York Times, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, Boston Globe, Sports Illustrated, and more. I've been following his work on Esquire.com for a couple of years. In my eyes and ears and mind, he's a cross between Mark Twain, David Carr, and Hunter Thompson, minus the Class A narcotics, although he just was at the dentist yesterday, so I can't vouch for that. Charles Pierce, thanks for being on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
Hey, Paul, it's great to be here. Hello to all my friends in the upper Midwest.
Oh, yeah. Well, you went to Marquette University.
I did, and I explored the upper Midwest, and then my second, it is one of my favorite places in the world. The Great Lakes are a natural wonder, which is why I do a lot of my blogging is about threats to the Great Lakes, both from energy, exploration and from, naturally invasive species. So, yes, I am a very big fan of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, that whole area.
And we found, because we were kind of email buddies, you're also a big fan of Grain Belt beer.
Yeah. Well, I remember. I mean, when I went to school, which was the early to mid '70s, there were all these local breweries. There were 5 operating independently owned breweries in Milwaukee at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Schlitz, Miller, Pabst, Blatz, and the fifth one I can never remember. And there was Hams, there was Stroh's in Michigan, there was Grain Belt. And now they're all owned by Belgian conglomerates now.
Right. Was there Pfeiffer? Do you remember Pfeiffer?
Pfeiffer, I do not remember, but I remember Point.
Oh yeah,
I remember Leinenkugel makes a great lager beer, just a straight lager beer, which you can't find anywhere except in certain areas in Wisconsin. But they're selling their craft beers all over America.
Well, in the early '80s, Leinenkugel was considered an imported beer. It was very popular in a club I played called the 400 Bar on the West Bank, where others, such luminaries as Willie Murphy, Curtis Ray Glover played. Was just a beautiful corner bar, but Leinenkugel was the beer on tap, and I remember Robert Christgau came to town in '84 to check out the replacements, and we shipped a case of Leinenkugels back with him to New York City. So.
Oh, I'm telling you, that's a hell of a going-away present. I remember when Tony Glover used to review records for Rolling Stone.
Oh, my God, yeah. And he, of course, did that great How to Play Harmonica book on oak, and it's actually, I just interviewed Charlie McGuire and Pop Wagner, 2 great folk singers that are going to be playing with Tony Glover this coming week at a lounge doing the 75th anniversary of Woody Guthrie's Bound for Glory with songs and stories. Yeah, so Tony's still around. And, have you ever been to Minneapolis, Charlie?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Okay, what do you do?
Back in the sports writing days, I was there a lot.
Sure. Now,
that and St. Paul, for that matter.
So who were you covering sports-wise up here?
Oh, when the Red Sox would go play the Twins, and I was writing sports columns at the Boston Herald, I'd go out with them for 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I made a bunch of visits when I was in college. Like I said, we drove friends of mine and I drove all over the Midwest. All the little towns in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Hayward, Wisconsin, home of the International Lumberjack Championship.
Oh, heck yeah. And it's also got, I also believe in Hayward they have the National Museum for the Muskie.
That's right, the National Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Which, for a while, was shaped like a muskie.
Yeah, right.
But now they have an actual building, which is kind of like, it's kind of sad for me. But you used to be able to walk up into the muskie's mouth and get your picture taken, and they had guardrails in the muskie's mouth so you wouldn't fall out, and it looked like the muskie was wearing braces. And the great thing about Hayward, though, is if you own a bar up there and you catch a big muskie, you put it behind glass behind the bar like Lennon. I went into this one fisherman bar up there a long time ago, and there was this giant muskie behind glass. The guy had stuffed it, preserved it, or whatever. I think it was his grandfather caught it, actually.
Well, the beautiful thing about where I'm from, the Iron Range, I live in northeast Minneapolis and Wisconsin, and most of those small towns, it's bar, church, bar, church, bar, church, bar.
Hockey rink.
Yeah, and hockey rink.
Barbara Church hockey rink.
Yeah. Well, Charlie, we are. One show is not going to do it with you. Like I said, we're going to do Check In with Charlie once a month because you are so on top of the political scene, and I read you every day. I mean, you blog sometimes 2 or 3 times a day.
Well, it's a target-rich environment these days, you know.
Oh, my, tell me about it.
You can't take 5 minutes off.
Oh, no doubt. Well, and if anybody's out there, I follow Charlie on Twitter and a bunch of other folks. Charlie's at Charles P. Pierce, Pierce, at Twitter. I highly suggest you follow him. What I like about you, Charlie, you kind of get to the to what's happening with the matter, but you do it with a certain sense of humor, so you don't want to put a gun to your head by the end of when you're reading one of your blogs.
Well, no, I mean, all of my, I'm a product of what used to be called the alternative press. Mm-hmm. That's where I learned my chops at the Boston Phoenix, and then I moved on to work at the Boston Herald, which is a Rupert Murdoch tabloid.
Wow.
So the renegade side of the business is pretty much where I learned my trade.
Well,
and of course, I was influenced by what they called the new journalism in the 1970s.
Right.
Which included Hunter, obviously, and everyone else. But, basically as my blogging avatars, I take most of the troublemakers in the history of my profession.
Right. Well,
Ida B. Wells, they're trying to raise, this is something that your listeners should know about. They're trying to raise money to put up a statue to Ida B. Wells, the great African-American journalist who did so much work on lynching. And I think it's the 100th year of her, I think it's her 100th year of her birth this year. And some folks are trying to put up a statue to her. So you should go online and check that out.
And what's the name again? And how's
Ida B. Wells.
Okay.
Ida Barnett Wells. She was an African American woman who wrote. She lived in Chicago. She originally lived in Memphis, and she wrote. I think she wrote. I honestly, because I don't have my research in front of me, I don't know. I think she wrote for The Nation actually. Back, The Nation's been around since 1857.
Right.
So I think she wrote for The Nation, but basically, she was the only journalist in America who was actually covering lynching.
Wow. Well, I just saw an interesting thing on Twitter the other day. Somebody posted a photo of a woman who predated Rosa Parks by about 10 years. She was a black woman that the cops came on the bus to ask her to get off, and she ripped up the citation and kicked the cop in the nuts.
Oh, well, that's certainly that's what Dr. King might not have approved, but...
Anyway, we're running down. We just got a few minutes left in this first episode of 4 on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. My guest, Charlie Pierce, from Massachusetts. Charlie, the whole Russian thing, it gets curiouser and curiouser. I read your article today online. When are we going to impeach this SOB?
Well, you need 2/3 of the House, and you're never going to get that. Mm-hmm. If you flip the House, maybe, but that's November. I'm not entirely sure we can wait that long. I've been banging the drum for. All they need with, obviously John McCain is not going to be functioning as a senator. He's fighting for his life down in Arizona, although he's tweeting his disapproval as much as he can. You got Jeff Flake and you got Bob Corker, neither of whom, by the way, are running for re-election.
Right.
They're out. Nothing can be done to them.
Mm-hmm.
If those two were to go to Chuck Schumer and say, we will caucus with you until things stop being insane, that's the end. Mitch McConnell has no power.
Right.
Because he doesn't have a majority anymore.
So
then maybe you can get things done. That's the only constitutional way I can see to put the brakes on prior to the midterms.
Right. Well,
would be that, and they won't do it, and I have no idea why.
Well,
not a clue.
And Flake is such a wishy-washy.
Well, that's the thing.
Fella too,
I mean, we've got a lot of what Casey Stengel used to call whiskey courage out of these guys.
I know what that is. By the way,
I guess in the modern era, it's Twitter courage.
Right. Well, and that's this whole the whole government now is run by tweets. For God's sakes, I remember when the Senate used to consider it the world's greatest deliberative body. When's the last time they debated anything in the Senate? For God's sakes.
Well, and the debate was unlimited.
Yeah.
That was the thing about the Senate. I mean, then they, obviously through the years, that's been cut back until it's really gone entirely. But, the power, in the legislature, the power is not necessarily with the majority.
Mm-hmm.
The power is with who controls the balance.
Right.
If you've got enough votes that they have to come treat with you for everything, then you've got the power.
Hmm.
And, right now, the only way for I would say, rational, sane people to get, because the House is hopeless. The House is it's Monkey Island at this point, to borrow an album title from the great Jack Howells Band.
And one of the greatest bands ever out of Boston.
No question.
Yeah.
They're hopeless. Nothing's going to happen in the House until November. But the Senate can stop things. And if you can get two Republicans to cross the aisle and say, look, we're not Democrats. We're not going to change parties. But we're going to vote with you guys until things get under control. Then everything stops. Kavanaugh, Supreme Court nomination stops. Appropriation or, bills, funding the government, that's at risk. And basically what that means is, well, as I said before, Mitch McConnell has no power.
Charlie, let's continue this.
Absolutely.
Next segment of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We'll be back.
The number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
This is New Beginnings, hosted by award-winning broadcaster and speaker Freddie Bell.
Freddie, this generation of the baby boomers, people are living longer, so the baby boomers are taking care of elderly parents.
Let's talk about your health, and specifically, let's talk about Medicare. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, and even entertainment.
Catch New Beginnings with Freddie Bell, Saturdays at 11 on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Northeast Minneapolis is known for its creativity, and you'll know exactly why when you eat at Hazel's Northeast. Their creatively prepared comfort food will have you coming back week after week. Breakfasts like biscuits and gravy, granola pancakes, and brisket hash. For lunch, homemade soup and one of the best Reubens in town. And don't miss the daily risotto or Chef Ali's ever-changing dinner specials. Come on in. Bring the whole family. Hazel's Northeast delivers real good food. Family owned at 29th and Johnson in Minneapolis.
There's no question you need omega-3s. But which form should you take? Fish oil or krill oil? Scientists have debated this for years. Luckily, there's a new solution to satisfy everyone. It's called Krill Omega 50 Plus. It combines ultra-pure fish oil and joint-soothing krill oil together in just one tiny pill. It's so powerful, it can promote the health of your heart and your arteries. And if that wasn't enough, it can also boost your joint comfort in just days. We're so sure Krill Omega 50 Plus will work for you. We'll even send you a free bottle to put to the test. The debate is over. It's not fish oil or krill oil. It's both. And now it's free. Just pay $4.95 for shipping and claim your free bottle. Call now. 1-800-647-1579. 1-800-647-1579. That's 1-800-647-1579.
Hi, I'm Scott Peterson with the Minnesota News Network, inviting you to join us for Minnesota Matters, a weekly program covering everything that matters in the North Star State. This week, the latest from the state capitol, adult smoking rates holding steady statewide, and an in-depth look at cancer and its impact on Minnesota. Tune us in right here or at MinnesotaNewsNetwork.com.
Listen to Minnesota Matters every weekend, Saturday mornings at 5:30 and Sunday mornings at 6:30 on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We have just a great guest on tonight, Charles Pierce from Massachusetts, a blogger, writer, just all-around cool liberal cat. This is your host, Paul Metzer. Charlie, let's talk a little bit about... So you talked about growing up writing for the Boston Phoenix, a great alternative weekly, which I believe is not there anymore.
Nope, it folded in March of 2013.
Wow, and then this year we saw the demise of the Village Voice.
Sure, I mean, no form of print media has been hit harder by the changes in the industry than the alt press. You know, and basically it's moved to the net. Right. I mean, the same spirit, the same attitude, the same ability to write with voice has moved pretty much completely to the internet now.
Who would, if you would give us, 2, 3, or 4 examples of people in my listening audience and myself that should read on the net, who would those be?
Well, I mean, among the aggregator sites, the first couple, I always go to Talking Points memo, Josh Marshall's site.
Sure.
I do. I go. I bang around a bunch of liberal sites. No More Mr. Nice blog is a really nice, well done individual blog, which also has an alphabetized blog roll, which I love. Certainly, Lawyers, Guns, and Money is at the top of my list. They've got great historians working there. Military historians, regular historians. Scott Lemieux is a terrific legal correspondent. And then basically I seek out bylines. Dahlia Lithwick at Slate is a must read. I'm choking a little bit now because there are so many of them. But I think the New York Magazine Daily Intelligencer does a great job. Jonathan Chait, Ned Kilgore. And for humor, I mean, if you can find T-Bog anymore, go find him. Wonkat certainly is, lights up my day.
Right.
So I mean, you could develop your own kind of community of interest on the web if you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And just like any form of written communication, if you do it right, it works really well. If you do it badly, it works badly.
Well, it's funny. For years you'd see the millennials walking around with their phones, and I was poo-pooed that. Now that I've turned into one of those guys that checking out Twitter at every coffee stop and bar and shot saloon I stop into. Number one, I feel a tad guilty, but on the other hand, the amount of information you can glean quickly. Like, I love Amy Siskine. She,
oh yeah,
she follows. She puts out the 15 things that Trump lied about today, and she's got a list. But the other guy who I really love, and I've seen you appear. I don't know if I've seen you appear together. I imagine you have. Would be GOP strategist Rick Wilson.
Yeah, I know Rick. We've never done anything, together. But Rick and I were together at the Texas Tribune Festival last fall. He was doing a panel, and I was doing a panel, and we sat around after the panel and chatted. I like Rick a lot. I mean, I'd like American politics to get back on balance so I could go back to hating Rick again. Not right now. You sort of have to hang with this guy.
Yeah, right. Well, and I have a firm disagreement with his gun philosophy, but that being said, he's pretty on the money these days.
Well, you've played a lot of clubs, I'm sure, where it's pretty good not to have guns. Where it's pretty good not to let the Patriots. What was Levon Helm once had a great description of the clubs they used to play with Ronnie Hawkins. He said you had to puke twice and show somebody you're nice before they let you in.
Well, and then of course in The Last Waltz, Robbie Robertson talks about playing a club in Dallas that was run by none other than Jack Ruby.
Well, about whom I understand a certain prominent Midwest folk singer has written a terrific song.
Jack Ruby.
With a Panama hat.
Whoever taught you to shoot a pistol like that? You snuck in the basement, you stood in the back, Jack Ruby in a cabin hat. You know how I wrote that tune, Charlie? I was
about to ask, how did you have? I think it may be, when I listened to Harry Smith, the Harry Smith collection of American folk music. They had guys writing folk songs about Charles Guiteau, one of the most obscure assassins in the world history.
Right.
So I had to ask. I said, "This isn't that spirit. How the hell did you decide to write a song about Jack Ruby?"
Well, I was 7 years old when I saw went through the JFK assassination, and I was actually watching them lead Oswald down into the basement at the.
I saw it on live TV too. It was amazing.
It was really the first reality TV show.
Yeah, it was also the first major television event.
Yeah, and so, of course, that was the first time that in my Iron Range white middle-class family that the whole concept of evil entered. So we were, very aware of there's this, as a young kid, that there's this whole other world that your mom and dad didn't necessarily tell you about because you didn't need to know then. But I always thought over the years that Jack Ruby had a real poetic sound to it. His real name, of course, was Jack Rubenstein. So I had.
I understand. I understand completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've collected. I have 20 books on it. I've been to Dealey Plaza twice. I've been behind the grassy knoll, and to the right of the grassy knoll, if you go down, you can see a little entryway into. It will take you to the bottom of the street. Underneath, where some theories say the gunman at the grassy knoll exited through it and by. So, and you can really feel the vibe. And the sixth floor museum at the Texas Book Depository, I highly recommend everybody.
I remember the very first time I ever saw it, I went to Dallas for a basketball game. And I stayed at the Marriott right down by what used to be Reunion Arena. I don't think Reunion Arena is there anymore. And I got in at like 10 o'clock at night, so I went right to bed. And I closed the blinds and I went to bed. I didn't have to go and do anything till the game the following night. And I woke up in the morning and I ordered my breakfast from room service and I opened the curtains and there it was. Dealey Plaza was right in front of me.
Wow.
And it looked exactly like it always looked.
Right. And that is just imprinted in all of our minds. I was just down in Memphis at the Lorraine Motel, the Civil Rights Museum.
They've done a great job down there, haven't they?
It's phenomenal. It's very, I was there for 4 hours. I could have been there all day. But to get back, before we end the second episode here with Charlie Pierce, the Wall of Power Radio Hour, what really spurred me to write Jack Ruby, I always knew there was a song there. And, I grew up with the, listen to Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan. And I love, John Hardy and all those old outlaw tunes. But I was reading the newspaper, and Jack Ruby's brother was selling some of Jack Ruby's artifacts to pay off a tax lien, including his Kavanaugh hat. And boom,
really?
Yeah. And boom.
The hat he was wearing that day?
Yeah. And and so, boom, it just came. I mean, it was one of those lines that just was given to you by the
muse.
By the muse, yes, by the muse. So that's how that. And I put all my books on the floor, and I stayed up all night long, and I wrote it. I had one line left. I called my good friend David Carr in the morning. I said, David, I need a phrase here in this line, and it's not in my head. I can't remember. It said stock and trade. So anyway, a little bit of the great David Carr's in that song.
Yeah, he's one I never met. I'm very sorry I never did.
Oh, I could tell you stories about him.
Oh, a lot of people have, believe me.
I'm on page 5 of his book, Night of the Gun. We'll leave it right there, Charlie. We got Charlie Pierce on. We'll be back with him. And for the rest of the show on the Wall of Power.
Not all poor men are honest, not all rich men are thieves. But the rich man owns the orchard, the poor man rakes the leaves. And as the wheel goes around, said all I want to ask is, if the rich man owns the land, why must the poor man pay the taxes?
Hello. If your taxes from years past are talking to you from the back of that drawer in your desk, it might be about time you answered the call by making a call to Moe's Tax Service in St. Paul.
Time to come out now.
They've been preparing tax returns and creating advisory-based relationships with their clients since 1971.
Kind of stuffy in here.
Problems with the IRS don't go away by ignoring them. Call Moe's Tax Service. That's M-O-H-S. They're on Ford Parkway in St. Paul. 612-721-2026. 721-2026.
Next time on Philosophy Talk, affirmative action. Too little or too much?
Affirmative action breaks down structures of white privilege.
Sowing backlash and resentment in the process.
We can't let a little resentment close the doors of opportunity.
Affirmative action may open doors for some, but it slams them shut for others.
Affirmative action. Too little or too much. Next time on Philosophy Talk.
Philosophy Talk. Every Sunday at 8 a.m. and again at 2 p.m. on AM 950.
Tom Hartman here, letting you know how you can go solar with All Energy Solar, even way up north in Minnesota. Lots of people ask them, isn't Minnesota too cloudy for solar? No. The truth? For one thing, Minneapolis gets nearly as much sun each year as Houston, Texas. But it isn't just about how much sun you get. It's also about having access to great local incentive programs that make solar affordable. Learn what your options are to save with solar and visit allenergysolar.com today.
Hey, it's Hunter from the brand new 4 o'clock program, the Minnesota Progressive Repartee. And if there's one thing y'all know that I always look forward to, it's a good party. And I couldn't be more excited for the 2019 Blue State Ball. Finally, a chance to celebrate the work we did destroying Trump and the Republicans and keeping Minnesota the true blue state. But come celebrate our victory with fellow progressives, radio hosts, and politicians at the 2019 Blue State Ball, Saturday, March 2nd at the Blaisdell in Minneapolis. Tickets available now at am950radio.com.
The number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Connections Radio Show is all about tapping into our hardwired hunger to connect. We examine meaningful connections to ourselves, our community, and the world around us. By opening the door to innovative insights by a wide variety of interesting guests, we'll make the connections to something bigger than ourselves. Join me, Lori Fitz, your host of Connections Radio Show, and together we'll make the connections. Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Sam Turnberg. Tonight is partly cloudy with a low around -9. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy with a high near 7. Monday, mostly cloudy with a high near 10. Tuesday, partly sunny with a high near -7. And Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near -12. Moe's Tax Service has been working for you, not the IRS, since 1971. They're located in Highland Park in St. Paul and are one of the largest sites that electronically files taxes in the country. Call 612-721-2026 or visit moestax.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Messa. I'm having a delightful discussion with Charlie Pierce, writer and blogger and liberal pundit. You've probably seen him on CNN, maybe MSNBC. Charlie, they haven't asked you on Fox yet, have they?
No, they haven't, actually. And as a former Murdoch employee, I feel kind of broken up about that.
You should have it in there somehow. Hey, have you ever hung out personally with Rachel Maddow? Because I heard she's a supreme mixologist. She loves her classic cocktails.
I haven't hung out in that capacity. When I published Idiot America, she was the first interview I did on TV.
Oh, really?
And then she was in town the night that Scott Brown won the Senate seat, broadcasting from Doyle's, the Irish-American political theme park bar in Jamaica Plain, which is not far from where I used to live.
Playgirl's Man of the Year, wasn't it?
I hung out with her and the crew, but she wasn't mixing anything that night. But she is one of those cocktail people, yes.
Yeah.
Near as I can tell.
Now, doesn't she live in Massachusetts as well?
She lives out in the Berkshires, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of the town. There's dozens of small towns out there. But she lives up, with her partner, and apparently she does a lot of fishing, actually. We should get her to Hayward. Have her go for muskie.
Yeah, right. We'll bring her in for the muskie tournament. You and Rachel. We could do a live remote.
The three of us, exactly.
Wouldn't that be a ball? And, Charlie, when did you really start getting interested in writing?
6th grade.
Okay.
It's funny. I was at a writer's thing, and there were 5 of us on the panel, and 3 of us mentioned that we were in 5th, 6th grade when some teacher told us that they liked something we written. It was the first kind of adult praise you got from someone outside your family. In my case, it was Sister Marie DePaul in 6th grade at St. Peter's School in Worcester. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know how or what field or where I wanted to go, but that's basically what I wanted to do. And then, you get, informed by what you read as you grow up.
Right.
And you develop a voice out of that. And in my case, it was also helped along by the writing of people like, your friend Mr. Dylan and Pete Townsend.
Right. Well, it's funny, and I can't remember the exact timeline, but when I was thinking about writing a book, I think it was, 8 years ago now, 2010, I met this guy actually online who had written something about Dylan, and I got a hold of him. He was a writer and an agent, and I sent him some stuff. His name will come to me soon, but I sent him some stuff because I had a stack of stuff in drawers because I write prose, poetry, songs, and usually all after midnight. So some I can actually understand my handwriting in the morning. Some I can't. A lot of bar napkin ideas as well, which I'm sure you've experienced that. When the muse strikes, you just write it down.
Yeah, you got to have something to write down, absolutely.
Yeah, so anyway, I sent him some stuff. I said, hey, I've got a drawer full of writings. I said, can I send you some stuff? And could you give me an objective view on the quality of this writing and the stories? And he read it and got back to me and said, I think you've got the beginning of a book. So I cut a deal with him. I needed it was a fair deal. It was $1,500, $500 a month. He'd help me edit it and then pitch it. And if he got me a deal, he wouldn't take a commission, but of course wanted to keep help editing it. So I needed my first $500, and I had this guitar, this Blue Ridge guitar, made in Korea, beautiful, kind of a J45, and I put it up on Facebook, and a fellow by the name of Gary Popovich ended up buying the guitar, right? And I didn't even know Gary. Somehow we just happened, we had a mutual Facebook friend, so we had a Facebook friend. So then I sent him the guitar, he sent me the $500, so that was the beginning of Blue Guitar Highway. And then at some point, I don't know if I brought you up or if he brought you up, and Popovich, Pops as we call him, said, Charles Pierce used to be my roommate in college.
That's right, on 24th in Wisconsin.
Wow. Small world. And then we were kind of
next time you talk to him, ask him to tell you about the night the hooker who lived next door set her apartment on fire.
Which I think is the title of my next song, by the way. Boy, that's got a nice ring to it. Yeah, so it was funny because we were Twittering back and forth. You know how Twitter is.
Gary can pick a little bit, too.
Yeah, yeah. He actually came out. He was in Minneapolis on business about 3 years ago and came and stayed with me and my gal. And so we picked a little bit. Yeah, he's a very, not only a great guy, but a wonderful musician and a musicologist as well. So we had
and I didn't realize this at the time we were living together, I didn't realize this until very recently. A golf nut.
Oh yeah, he's insane.
And a very good player.
Yeah, he's insane. Yeah, and I guess his gal is quite a golfer too.
Yes, they play. Yeah, I met her at Cotton Bowl a couple of years ago.
Charlie,
he's quite a guy, and the accidental. It's one of the good things about the internet culture, I guess.
Yeah,
is that like people like you and Pop can get together and then wind up talking about me.
Yeah, and then you had I'm forgetting her first name, Peplin Jack from Virginia, Minnesota. You knew
Anime Peplin Jack, an attorney at law in Milwaukee.
Yeah, she's
from Virginia.
Yeah, and I believe her brother Jim was also a very good labor attorney. He passed away, Jesus, for his heart attack.
Yeah, there's a bakery in her background somewhere, too, right?
Peplin Jack's Bakery, it's still there. They've got the best filled Long John in town and a sloppy Joe to die for. I go there every time I'm back in Virginia. On my main street in Virginia, Minnesota, town of about 7,500 now. When I graduated from high school in 74, God saw fit to drop the drinking age to 18 years old. And we were able to enjoy on that 5-block main drag, which is Chestnut Street, which is why I like to play Freight Train. In my heart down on Chestnut Street was Charlie, and we got to bring you and Popovich up to the end range. At the time, in 74, there was 22 bars in 5 blocks.
That sounds about like the Milwaukee of my college days.
Yeah. I remember I took a buddy up when I first moved to Minneapolis. I took him up to the range, and so there was 2 of my buddies from the range and myself and my Minneapolis pal, and he orders a round. I don't know, let's pretend we're drinking rum and cokes, and he orders 4 rum and cokes, and waitress comes back and said, that'll be $4.50. And he said, no, I wanted to buy the round. I want to buy all of us. She said, you just did.
I tell the story all the time. The very first time I went to a Milwaukee Brewers game my freshman year in college, I sat in the bleachers. The Brewers were terrible, so there were plenty of seats available. So I sat down, and a guy came over with a wooden, like one of those old wooden milk crates, and it was filled with crushed ice, and you could only see the tops of the beer bottles. And he asked me a question I was never asked at a ballpark before. How many do you need?
Well, I remember.
Said, well, we're not in Fenway anymore.
Right. Well, I remember Superior, Wisconsin, which we lovingly refer to as Soup Down. We drove down. Buddy had this was 72. We drove down because we heard that they had a pretty lax drinking regulations at the bar in Superior. So I went to a place called Tommy Burns' bar. I remember beers were a quarter, shots were 50 cents. And my grandpa owned a bar, but of course I'd never drank at a bar. I didn't really even drink that much at all. I was more of I liked the herbal side of mood elevation at the time. Still do to a certain extent. But anyway, so I went up to the bar, and it was about 10 in the morning, and there was 4 of us, and the bartender came up, an older gentleman, and said, what do you have? I said, I'm thinking about, I've seen this in cowboy movies, right? I said, I'll have a beer. And he goes, let's try that again. So I looked to the guy next to me, and I go, I'll have a Budweiser. And he goes, that's better. Oh, man. Well, we could talk about all kinds of things. Before I forget, I want to give you an invitation to come to Minneapolis. Then we're going to hike up to the Iron Range.
Oh, man. I'd love it. We also got to keep the energy industry's hands off the boundary waters.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, I had Richard Painter, who's running for Al Frankenseed, and he is on fire on that issue because all those, both the Chilean company that wants to go into the boundary waters, and then there's another company that wants to do. It's called Paul. There's two issues. PolyMet, which is just a little bit east of my hometown, and then right by the boundary waters, which is Twin Metals. The Twin Metals group is owned out of Chile, and the guy that runs that company is also Ivanka Trump's landlord.
That's right. Yeah. I've written about it. It's a horrible company too, by the way. Their mines and operations in Chile are just dreadful. Yeah. Absolutely dreadful.
And then the people that are running the PolyMet operation, number one, it's that Oleg, whatever, the guy we've been reading about, the Russian oligarch. And they did, and one of the main guys, what was his name? Tony something or other. He ran the BP operation that blew up in the Gulf.
Well, naturally he's been promoted, I'm sure.
Yeah. So these are the folks that are, but the problem is, and I get it, man. I grew up, I'm a Iron Range Prairie populist, longtime DFLer. Yeah. I did vote for Jesse Ventura, played it as inaugural, and I also voted for Arnie Carlson, who great Republican.
I remember Arnie. Yeah. In fact, I wrote about Jesse's inaugural for Esquire.
Oh man,
I spent the first week in office with him.
Oh, incredible! I put together a meeting. I was trying to get Farm Aid here in '99. Willie Nelson, Jesse Ventura, myself, and a promoter, and so. Willie is pitching his deal about full parity for the farmers, and Jesse's got his deal, limited government, blah, blah, blah. And at some point, now Willie drove down, I set it up. Willie was playing up at a casino up in Hinckley, about an hour and a half north of Minneapolis. He drove all the way down in his bus to meet Jesse, and Jesse goes, Willie, when I'm out in the barn with the horses, it's Willie Nelson all day long, but when I go back inside, it's Led Zeppelin. It's like only in America, right? And
That's pretty funny.
And then his wife Terry came in with a bunch of swag from the state fair and kind of smoothed everything over. We didn't get to Farm Aid there, but I was able to hang out with Willie on his bus, and you know where that one went.
Well, I can imagine the herbal side of life was very vigorously pursued.
Smoke me up, roll me up and smoke me when I die. I've got Charlie Pierce on. We're going to have him for one more segment on the Wall of Power Radio. I'm just having a delight here. So we'll just see you guys in a little bit.
I was looking at Loretta's junkyard. She had a mustache and a rose tattoo. I was living in a shack in Dogtown with my old man and his girlfriend too. One day my old man left me with a picture of mother with her only son. He said, I hope my blood don't run through your veins. He said, you know it's better to fight than run. He said, you know it's better to fight than run.
Hi, this is Charlie. Dad, do I have to say this next line?
Do you want to sleep inside tonight?
My dad is beloved, world-famous radio broadcaster Matt McNeil.
Perfect!
Anyway, my mom and dad want me safe when I'm driving in winter weather. That's why the vehicle they trust is the Toyota Sienna, and the dealership they trust is Rudy Luther Toyota. They keep me safe.
With my son driving this winter, I trust Rudy Luther, and you can too. Stop in today and become a Rudy Luther Toyota family. The southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Enjoy a delicious home-cooked breakfast or lunch away from the kitchen at Milda's Cafe, now open 7 days a week. Milda's Cafe has been cooking up family favorites since 1964. Grab a coffee and sit down for a delicious Philly scramble, house-made rolls, or Denver omelet. Stop in for lunch where you'll find authentic Finnish pasties every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Open weekdays 6 to 3, weekends 8 to 2. Milda's Cafe on Glenwood Avenue, 4 blocks east of Penn.
Native Roots Radio is proud to announce we've added an extra hour.
Yeah, Chushke, 1 hour goes by too fast.
That's right, Uncle Curtis.
I'll have extra time to share important information about our secret animals.
And report national and native news from all over the country and Canada.
This new hour is sponsored by Robbins Kaplan, LLP, rewriting the odds for their clients for over 80 years.
We are awake.
The number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Crazy about pets? We are too. The Pet Connection Show is a great venue for fun, informative, and creative conversations about pets. Join myself, Kathy Menard, and Dr. Nicole Parole, along with guests who are leaders in the dynamic and growing pet industry, as we discuss healthcare, relationships, behaviors, and even political issues as they relate to our pets. So come, sit, stay for the Pet Connection Show, Sundays 11 a.m. to noon on AM 950 Radio, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Yay, you survived the holidays. Now what about cleaning up that holiday mess? My friends, it's time you learn my holiday hangover secret. It's Zero Res. Fortunately for you, right now is the best time of the year to call Zero Res. Get 3 rooms clean starting at just $119. And this month only get a hallway clean for free with their 3-room special. Call 952-ZERO-RES or book online anytime at ZeroResMinnesota.com. Spell it backward or forward. It spells the same. Zero Res.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio. Well, this is the 4th episode. This is your host, Paul Metz. I'm having a ball talking to my buddy Charlie Pierce on the other end. We were the last segment talking about the union in northeastern Minnesota. And I just what I wanted to get to was I get it. The number one, I'm what they call up there a tree hugger, and now I'm a 612er as opposed to the 218er, which is the area codes. But it's such a short term. I mean, either of these mines, it's 20-year tops, and at some point they're going to bring in the robots. In the meantime, we're sitting in from Lake Superior north. We're sitting on 20% of the world's fresh water, And the next big fight after oil, Charlie, and I'm sure you can tell us more about this, is going to be water rights and water issues.
Sure. I mean, the wars over water are already starting.
Right.
You got privatization of water here in the United States, but obviously more extensively in what we used to call the third world countries. That's going to be the next one because we can find a way to get energy without oil. We can't find a way to survive without water.
Right. With the population exploding, climate change. It's one of the reasons why I'm never going to move out of Minnesota is I'm a double Scorpio, a water sign, plus I hate poisonous snakes. But anyway, Charlie, let's we just have
I'm not real fond of them myself. To be perfectly honest with you. I'm a tree hugger, but I'm not a viper hugger.
Yeah, there you go. So there is now, I think pretty much of us realize that Trump is completely owned for whatever reasons. It's certainly owned by Putin and his cronies. But now you're starting to see the influence of the Russian money and the NRA and then all the Republicans, House and Senate. And it's just like that great Lenny Bruce line. He goes, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not following you.
No, I think that the prosecution of Maria Butina is going to open the floodgates. And I think it's going to be a nice window into why a lot of Republicans are nervous about doing anything about the crazy president we have. Because there's Russian money all over the Republican Party, I would guarantee it. There's Russian money all over the conservative think tanks, the conservative movement, conservative media. I guarantee you that she's the tip of the iceberg.
And you know what I like about that name, Butina?
The red-haired gun mall.
Yeah, Butina, and it rhymes with subpoena.
It does. Very good. See, that's why you're a songwriter.
So, what do you?
Maybe we should get her a Kavanaugh hat. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, somebody about 3 weeks ago at a gig brought me about a 1910 John Kavanaugh hat box.
That's tremendous! I can't believe you don't have people throwing them at you during gigs.
Oh man!
Tom Jones gets underwear, you get Kavanaugh hats.
Yeah, and the occasional tomato, but. So, Charlie, we've only got about 4 minutes left. So,
sure.
There's so many. I mean, every day there's a new conflict of interest. There's a new light that's shed on a nefarious deal. And number one, the Republicans are most of them, I believe, are complicit, but they have no energy to investigate any of this, and it's coming at us so fast and furiously. We can't keep up with. So what I want to ask Charlie Pierce, is there a silver lining in all of this?
Well, I think that you're seeing a level of street activism we haven't seen since the 60s.
Right.
And I think that's a cause for some optimism. You're seeing a raft of very, very interesting new candidates both at the state and local level and at the congressional level. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a great politician.
Right.
She doesn't really know it yet, I don't think, but she really is. Connor Lamb is a terrific, we've got, in my state alone, we've got, Elizabeth Warren and, Joseph Kennedy III is my congressman.
Can I jump in there for a sec, Charlie? I did
Sure.
I played the Humphrey Mondale dinner, which is the big fundraiser, every year in downtown Minneapolis. One year it was in St. Paul. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I played the entrance music, the exit music, and then the Star Spangled Banner at some point. But Elizabeth Warren spoke, and I hung out with her backstage, and she's like hanging out with your 6th grade librarian. She's
she's a hoot, isn't she?
She's mild, and she's like your favorite aunt. When she got on that stage, she blew the roof off the place, and I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to go out and get a bumper sticker tomorrow and make 1,000 that say Hillary who.
Yeah, she's a piece of work. She is. I knew her before she ran for office because I used her as a source on stories during the financial collapse. She was that's when she first got famous. She went on with Jon Stewart.
Right.
She was the expert on kind of why the bubble popped and essentially mortgage and medical induced bankruptcies. She was the go-to source. So I got to know her and her husband, Bruce Mann, who's a brilliant professor of colonial law and early American Republic law. And, she's just, I'm less objective about her than I have been about any politician who's ever lived.
Yeah, right. Oh, I totally get it.
She has an incredible capacity of explaining complicated things so that dopes like me can understand.
Yeah. Well, and I feel the same way about you, Charlie, because you've got a great sense of history. I love your acidic take. You've got a great sense of humor. Your colloquialisms are phenomenal. What the hell is a shebeen?
Oh, it's an interesting story. A shebeen was an illegal saloon in Ireland which trafficked both in bootleg whiskey called poteen and whiskey that was avoiding the taxes of the British Empire. There aren't many of them left, obviously, because there's no British Empire anymore. But the word shebeen has now moved to South Africa.
Wow!
If you Google shebeen, your first 5 or 6 entries will be from South Africa. Because they sprung up in the towns in the townlands under apartheid.
That's phenomenal, Charlie. We just got 30 seconds left. In a perfect world, in Charlie Pierce's perfect dream world, who would run for president and vice president in 2020?
I think. I wouldn't be a loyalist if I didn't say I really don't want Elizabeth Warren to run because I want her to be my senator for the next 20 years.
Right.
I think she's moving toward it, and if she's moving toward it, I would say her. And as for vice president, I wouldn't want to go with Joe Kennedy because she can't have 2 people from Massachusetts.
Right.
But somebody of a young, rising star, maybe a state senator from somewhere.
Okay.
Somebody who's worked at the ground level.
My pick hits to click would be Sally Yates, president, Michael Avenatti, VP. Charlie Pierce, thank you so much. We're going to have Check-In with Charlie once a month on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
I look forward to it, Paul.
Okay, brother. You have a wonderful day.
You too, pal. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. The show is produced by Paul Metza, engineered by Eric Nelson, and recorded in the basement of the AM 950 studios in Eden Prairie, which is neither Eden nor a prairie. Watch my TV show, Wall of Power TV, every Saturday night. If you have Comcast, get on Channel 6 at 8 and 11:30 p.m. or stream from mcn6.org. And remember, like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.
Some make the high